But wait a minute. At ACC Hospitality, they're not serving tequila.
No.
Because typically the nights where you've been getting after it and we end up at a Waffle House or a cookout, it's been from like ACC Hospitality.
Yeah, but you got to remember, hospitality.
There was the time you did the Natter Days with the extra sidecar
that was
of Tito's.
Tito's.
That was before the world shut down.
Yeah, that was good.
I
don't think Brownlow's talking to me still for that one.
That's right.
Because I'm like, this is delicious. And she's like, the headache.
Yeah, the headache
wasn't worth it.
The headache was not worth it. Well, I learned my lesson again at ACC this past year at ACC tournament time because we ended up at that brewery, the Steel Hands, right?
We were in New York, right? Because this was the one where we actually. No, this is the one where Kevin Best got us the tab, and he's like,
no,
you have to drink.
No.
Or was that 2 years ago?
That was 2 years ago in Brooklyn. Last year we were at Steel Hands in Greensboro across the street.
Yep.
And I made the mistake. If I'm drinking beer at this age, I have to pick one style of beer. It typically has to be the beer flavored beer. The minute I get away from a beer flavored beer, and if I get like an IPA or something like that, it's game over. I will have, my stomach will be upset.
Sleepy.
No, not sleepy.
No. Oh.
Like my stomach will be upset. I'm on the struggle bus after that, especially with those IPAs. Now, what you're talking about was Brooklyn. I forgot the name of the bar. It was like a Wake Forest bar.
Yeah.
For the night.
And Kevin was like, you can't leave.
Well, because nobody showed up. It was in Brooklyn. It was too expensive. It was like
busting into the.
It was like the Brett
Buffalo Trace and all the other stuff.
The Brett Friedlander, like Brett will show up because that dude will find, trains, planes, and automobiles to get somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was Luke who figured out that the whole bar was on the ACC.
Yeah.
And we asked Kevin, who runs the thing, okay, so if that Buffalo Trace, we good with that? That Four Roses single barrel, we good with that? They're like, yeah, anything at the bar. And we have to hit a minimum.
Right. There were only like 5 people.
Right. So you were there when we were doing the shots of bourbon?
I had like 2 beers and I went to bed, and that's when you guys like told me the next night, like,
you missed out.
Yeah, we got to close that place down because.
And then we went the next night. You know what was missing from the top shelf?
All of their bourbon.
All of their expensive bourbon. Gosh, that was a good night. This is why the ACs can't afford crap, because we clean them out.
Yeah,
that's why FSU wants out.
It's the 30 for 30.
Anyway, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Let's do this. Let's podcast alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovias inside the Eford Studios, downtown Raleigh. Thanks to Empire Properties and thanks to Copiers Plus. Check them out online at copiers-plus.com. We're getting dangerously close to the end of the year. We have today's show. We have tomorrow's live show at the Raleigh Times. And then we've got a 2-part year-in review that we will release part 1 on Christmas morning.
Love it.
When you wake up Christmas morning, it will be there waiting for you. Put it on the TV. Maybe we'll send you some stickers if you show proof that you're opening up gifts, enjoying some eggnog. Instead of a Yule log, you've got us talking about number 8 through 4 in part 1 of our year of review.
Love it.
And then on Wednesday next week, we'll give you part 1 with numbers 4 through 1. But again, big thanks to Copiers Plus. Check them out. If you're doing some end of year review stuff yourself, you want to save some money in 2024, Copiers Plus can help you with that. Hit them up, copiers-plus.com. So I am under the assumption that the way the Canes took the Vegas Golden Knights to the woodshed, that it's like when you play the video game and you zap them, you get all their loot, right? It's like Fortnite. All right, we got you when we just destroyed you, and then the Stanley Cup just kind of pops out onto the map. You pick it up and you run with it, right? That's what that's how it worked last night?
I don't think so. I don't think that's how it works.
It's too bad. That's too bad.
I mean, they look good for, all but the final 2 minutes of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's garbage time goals for Kochetkov. Come on.
Is it Kochetkov or Kochetkov? I think we're getting into the good one is Kochetkov.
Can you hit up?
And his evil twin is Kochetkov.
Can Is Mark Gottfried still talking to us after that interview? Okay, we didn't tick him off or anything like that.
No.
Look. You know what? Why would I think we'd ticked him off? You saw his location from the interview.
The Got man is that Cali smooth.
Yeah, man, he's living that life. If you missed that interview from a few weeks ago, highly recommend that you go check it out. It's on our podcast on our YouTube page. So Mark Gottfried, context purposes, Mark Gottfried, when he first got here at NC State, he had inherited CJ Leslie. Never forget that recruiting day when it was like CJ Leslie and Ryan Harrow and who else was it? Who was the third?
Lorenzo
That's
Brown.
Right, Lorenzo Brown. There was a guy, longtime listener, who I still occasionally keep up with. Guy's name is Chris. He had a truck. He had CJ Leslie sign his truck. I think it's fading at this point. So anyway, Gottfried played mental games with CJ Leslie. When he was happy with CJ Leslie, he was CJ.
No. He was Calvin.
Oh, have it inversed?
Yeah.
Have it reversed? Okay, so he was happy with him. He was Calvin.
Yep.
But when he was not happy with him, he was CJ.
Yes.
So are we doing this with Kochetkov now?
I'm just saying, we saw both of them last night.
So when he's good, when he's locked in, which he has been for the most part over the last 4 games, I think he's 3-0-1.
Yeah, that was
in the last 4 games.
It was 6-1. It's
come on.
Yeah.
So he's Kochetkov when he's
I
locked
think is
in.
what everyone called. Most people call him Kochetkov.
But when he's not locked in, you're going the Waddell.
I'm going Don Waddell.
Kochetkov. I think last night. I will I'll just put it like this when it comes to the Carolina Hurricanes and what we've seen since they've come back from a brutal road trip. Maybe it is as simple as goaltending. I've been trying to find deeper meaning in the Carolina Hurricanes, which usually goes against my usual way of looking at things. And you and Luke DeCock have been screaming, guys, Ovias, it's goaltending. It's as simple as that. When you can't trust the goalie, then it affects everything from the goal mouth out. I'm like, yeah, but this defense should be better regardless. Offense, these guys have to finish. It's not lost on me over the last 4 starts for this guy. He's been better. And look at that. Everything around him has been better.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's an oversimplification, but the power play also came alive last night. And
3 for 3 last night.
Andrei Svechnikov played, and Michael Bunting was a contributor. You look at those 3 things, and obviously the 2 of them are related to the power play. Bunting was brought in to be the guy from the Maple Leafs. And now, of course, you're playing with an unbelievable cast around you. And he had turned into the Michael Bunting from the Coyotes, where you're like, okay, cool. We don't really need another 3rd or 4th line guy who just takes up space. You need a difference maker. And, maybe the system, as we talk a lot about the way that the Canes play and the efforts that's required to play, maybe he's starting to figure some of those things out because he has been playing better of late. And then obviously with Svechnikov coming off the knee injury, now he got like the injury, his most recent injury was like, got chicken winged and jabbed and all these other things. And it was like just a dirty type play. And they need him. Just as simple as that. They just don't, they can't afford, as we saw in the playoffs last year. The thing about last year was it was supposed to be Svech and Pacioretty being difference makers from the previous playoff run.
Of course, we didn't get that.
And then all of a sudden, you don't have either of them, And so it's like...
I don't think that... I think last night, if you're looking for something tangible, the Canes have played their best against teams as of late that aren't good. And cool. Right. You do have to go out there and hammer a team that isn't good. So you do get credit for that. I'm not trying to diminish. I mean, we're talking about the defending Stanley Cup champs who are the best team in the NHL right now. And I think it's theirs.
They don't get to take it away.
So. We kind of joked about like, oh, well, I guess tonight we'll see what the Canes are really about. And they actually answered every bell.
No, it's not just one of 82.
No.
It's one of those times where you play somebody, okay, let's see where you're at. Let's see who you are. And I thought it was important the way that they played and won the game. And the last 2 minutes, Kochetkov would like back. They would like to have Kochetkov for the whole time. But
now I say that to set up my next point. Just because they looked great last night, just because it looks like things have kind of been going in the right direction over the last few games coming off that road trip, that doesn't mean you sit idle. And I still think that they need to go out and get another finisher, somebody who can elevate them offensively. Great for Bunting last night, but they still need somebody to elevate them offensively. Before we hit record, you had said, oh man, wouldn't it be funny if they brought back Lindholm? That's been the fever dream for Canes Twitter for a while now, of bringing Lindholm home. That will be funny if it did happen.
Right, because I guess Calgary is just a mess with all their contracts, and they fired their coach and all the other stuff, and there's going to be a Calgary fire sale. I get it. I suspect Colorado might be
Maybe
ahead of them in the line. We'll
might
see.
be the case.
We'll see what ends up happening there. But no, I just look. You said the road trip. The Nashville game was problematic too because they played so well against Nashville,
and then it just went. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like, that's a game you had in control. That's a game they almost, like, I'm sure under their odds, they win that thing 99.9% of the time, 4-2, 5-3, and end up losing, 6-5 in OT. It was like, so those are the kind of moments that you're looking at. And it's all a build, right? I think one thing, listening to Tripp a little bit last night, I don't think there's like this huge difference, even last year statistically, where Boston and the Canes were. I think the bottom is being raised, and I think the top is kind of coming here, and you're getting kind of this.
There's a compression,
as Tripp had said. It was, if you're not focused on that particular night, you're going to lose.
You could say that a lot of these games in the Metro have a lot of playoff-like atmosphere.
Just almost.
Housekeeping.
Shouts to Alec.
Big shout. Somewhere Alec Campbell is shaking his fist. He's the oldest 30-something I've ever known. Don't say that. We want you to participate in our Tecmo Super Bowl tournament. It's going to be February 4th, snugly in between the conference championship games and the Super Bowl. So we're going to do our own Super Bowl, the Tecmo Super Bowl. We need participants. We've got 32 slots. Email us, theoggoesdigital@gmail.com. Say you want to participate. Cash prizes. There is an entry fee.
$25 gets you in the door, and then we will be giving out cash prizes. We'll also have some food and some other stuff, of course. We're going to take care of you. If you've been to pizza night, if you've been to our OG tailgate, we'll always have something for you. But this was really a chance to test your skill, see who's the best.
Also, big thanks to Roy Cooper, Governor of North Carolina. We're going to bring you that conversation here in a second. Gilio went and got a custom C to make him the official captain of Team OG, and he was really happy about that hoodie. Did you see the joy on his face?
I did. I feel like the tripartisan flag was like created specifically for him, despite all of his protests, and despite that he really is a double Tar Heel.
It's fine. Anna knocked it out the park from sound off on that design. He loved it. A lot of people love that design. You can get yours today, breakingt.com/OG. Quick note, because I did have a listener ask, are there promo codes for Breaking Tea? The quick answer is no, there are no promo codes for the Breaking Tea OG stuff. The reason why is that we get a direct compensation from every sale of one of those shirts. So Jamie and the crew over at Breaking Tea do a good job. And our arrangement with them is, look, you guys handle all the storefront and the making of the shirts because we don't know what we're doing with that, but we get a cut. So yes, they are full price. I know some people can look kind of like, ooh, that's kind of expensive, but a lot of t-shirts are expensive. A lot of custom t-shirts are expensive, number one. Number two, more importantly for us, we get a cut of the sale. So just wanted to be completely transparent on that. Head on over to breakingtea.com/OG. Speaking of our Tecmo tournament, it's going to be brought to you by Whitaker and Hamer. We're going to do it over at Shady's in beautiful, historic downtown Garner. And if you have, and we need him to like write up a contract and a release too, by the way.
Yeah, there could be some fights.
Could be. Because people are going to get very particular about this stuff.
If something glitches in our Nintendo,
can't have that happening. So head on over to wh.lawyer. Again, that's wh.lawyer. Maybe you buy a house. You can take it to closing with Whitaker and Hamer. And hopefully you've purchased a house thanks to our friends at Hometown Realty. Check them out online at myhtr.com. You might be looking to expand your home in 2024. New construction, super, super hot as we get outside the listening area. And Hometown Realty can help.
Yeah, you have to have an in for that new construction. This isn't just let me dial a number on the side of the road here, people. Go to myhtr.com. You can buy, sell, calculate.
And when you have a house, you have a car, you need insurance for such things.
Oh, man.
Matt Davis, State Farm. Hit them up, 919-779-8277, or go to the website, insuregarner.com or theoginsurance.com.
Yeah, got a nice Christmas miracle text from Matt yesterday.
Oh?
Said there were two people listening to the show.
Let's go.
Needed a policy.
Love it.
Gave him a call, and I said, that's how it works. Costanza.
Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline, he's been kind enough to invite us back to the governor's mansion. Roy Cooper, governor of North Carolina. Thanks for having us back.
Joe and Joe, it's always so much fun to talk with you guys. And thank you for my great Christmas gift. I'm very excited about it.
We feel like we had to make up for it the last time we were here in March when Giglio trolled you just a little bit with
Just a little bit?
with a state pennant and a Duke shirt.
Yeah. We made it through it okay, and we're all still good. So I'm glad you're here, and I hope you guys are having a great holiday.
So when the office reached out to me, I asked him, like, well, does the governor actually want to talk about anything specifically? And I was like, no. And I realized I actually know what this is about. I told Giglio, the Canes aren't running so hot right now on this road trip. I think he needs to get some Canes therapy out of his system.
I think that's right.
And
This is a safe space.
And you're rocking the jersey today. That was
I'm rocking the jersey. Yes, indeed. And I have my whole theory about the poor road trip and the 2 overtime losses. And, tonight we play the Stanley Cup champs, as we talked. I don't know when you're going to air this. But look, we've cruised through the regular season before. And when you cruise through a regular season, we've seen it with the Bruins, we've seen it with other teams, you don't run into the adversity that comes with the playoffs and somebody really trying to punch you in the mouth. And so I've taken solace in the fact that I'm okay with this adversity as long as we don't play ourselves out of the playoffs, which is we're right in the wild card mix right now. We've got more games in hand than some of the teams behind us. So I'm a little worried about that. But I believe in this team. I believe in the coach. I think that just obviously goaltending has been problematic, and we've got a couple of new players in Bunning and Orlov and others who are trying to mesh. Had some injuries, but been relatively healthy. But I just feel good about this team, and I think this adversity will be helpful to us when we get to the playoffs. So I'm still bullish. I'm still going to – I think it was you guys. It might have been Adam. Sorry. But the first bet when we do sports betting, I am going to make a bet on the Canes to win the Stanley Cup.
That was with us.
That was your suggestion,
yes.
And I'm excited about that and look forward to that. And maybe get a little better odds right now that we're doing so well. Better odds in meaning I get more money when we hit. So that's what I mean.
It's all a smokescreen. This is all an elaborate ploy that you've set up.
It could be.
Dundon. That's why he gets the gambling license and all those other
You can think what you want, Joe.
Okay. I'm okay with that. How do you watch these games?
How do I watch them?
Are you gripping it super tight, or because you are glass half full right now?
So most of the time,
throw things? Do you swear?
Well, how I watch it, a lot of times I'm doing things when the actual game is being played. So I'm recording games, and I'll have to admit that sometimes I have to watch the 11 to 12 minute truncated top plays and things. But yeah, I'm a pretty active hockey fan, even when I'm watching a game by myself, because my wife will hear me yell at the other end. A goal, a great save, a tough hit, those kinds of things I like. So I react to. Our dog will bark. We know we've done something well. So
true story. We ran into you at a Ben Folds concert once.
That's right.
And I introduced Kelly to you.
Yes.
And then I made an offhanded remark. I said, good thing you're not watching the Canes tonight, because they were getting smoked that night in the regular season.
Oh, but that was the wrong thing to say to me.
And your wife got upset at me. She's like, don't. He doesn't want to know. He doesn't want it spoiled. This is a real thing. People, it's funny. You're a politician, so people think, well, there's got to be some sort of angle here, right? There is no angle when it comes to the Canes. You care.
Oh, I care deeply. Fever pitch with Jimmy Fallon sitting with the in-laws eating lobster. He's recording the Red Sox games, and he's got the lobster, la, 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 when somebody's talking about the game. I am like that. I do not want to know the score. My wife sent me a cartoon of the surgeon coming out of the operating room, says, I have some news for you. Said, if it's the score, don't tell me. That's the kind of guy that I am.
How did that happen? How did your hockey fandom become a thing?
First game I went to was when the Hurricanes came to Raleigh. I did not go to any of the games when they were in Greensboro, but when I went to a Hurricanes game, I fell in love with the game immediately. Became a season ticket holder, went to a lot of games, was there even during the extremely lean times. Game 7 in 2006, the probably top 1 or 2 sporting events I've ever been to in my life when we beat Edmonton in Game 7. I just love the sport. I've said it many times, but the grace and skill and stamina and determination and toughness are all balled up into one. I think these athletes are just extraordinary, and particularly the pain tolerance and all of that they deal with. It's just truly amazing to me. Love the sport.
Yeah, we both went to the Governor's Cup
That's right.
game. I was extremely disappointed in you. I need Roy Cooper heel turn. You were there. NC State is playing North Carolina. Yeah. Just come out in the Tez Walker jersey. Like, what were you doing? Like, what you had like this, members only governor thing on.
You don't
show your colors, man. You already did. You already have shown them.
You don't need to be controversial unless you have to. Okay. I mean, why? That'd be gratuitous to do something like that. That would be like you. That's great. And I just don't want to do that. And in fact, hey, this transfer portal thing, everybody's benefiting now from what we started. And, I've been in touch with NC State people about helping in some of the things that they have going on. So
that's what State fans want. Where were you before?
Yeah, you chose violence, man. Well, you're the one who chose violence, not me.
You mean violence by writing a letter to Charlie Baker? Is that violence? Is that what you're talking about?
For Tez Walker. I think that's the reason why people will view it that way.
It just happened to be a really horrible case that they had no business denying the transfer, and particularly no business taking as long as they did. And I think that has led to what has happened with the lawsuit and the opening of the transfer portal, which helps everybody. Look, NCAA is in a horrible position with conference realignment, with NIL, with transfer portal, trying to keep the institutions together, seeing an ever-growing separation between the big football schools and the rest of the universities, and trying to deal with all that is almost an impossible situation. But and it concerns me about college sports, but I know how important it is, because the people who give lots of money and care for our universities, most of them are also sports fans, and they tie those things together. And so if they're happy sports fans, they give more to the School of Arts and Sciences, and they endow professorships and all of that kind of stuff. So whether we like it or not, sports is an integral part of higher education, and NCAA has just got to find its footing and find a way to put some regulations in place that people would actually abide by and that could actually be enforced. In this latest proposal on NIL, at least it's an attempt to try to get the universities involved and get the players help and all of that. But it's a very difficult situation.
Have you had conversations with Charlie Baker beyond the Tez Walker for what he has wanted to propose, creating a super league essentially?
No, I have not.
Okay.
And I, they're reacting to all of the forces that are coming down at this point, whether it's political, federal legislation, lawsuits, unrest amongst the university presidents. Got to be dealing with all of that. So you got to find a way forward. You've got to get input from everybody and at least try to gain some ground here. It's just unfortunate that football seems to be driving the whole money train here.
Yeah.
And that hurts everything else. And particularly a state like North Carolina that we believe basketball is where it's at, and so that's probably going to continue.
I think under different circumstances, and it's probably going to happen after you're out of office, but I think under different circumstances, you would try to keep our public schools together.
I would prefer that. Yes. I think that is better for our state, for our universities. And we just don't need to be chasing the almighty dollar at the cost of everything else. I mean, it's important for us to be competitive, obviously. And we're seeing that with NIL and transfers. And, but when you really think about it, it's finally the athletes getting some of what they deserve. I mean, the coaches, the universities, all of the advertisers, the TV deals, everybody else has made the money except for the players. And they've gotten good educations with their scholarships, but a lot of them deserved a lot more than that. And I think we're seeing that play out in judges looking at this as antitrust violations and that they deserve a piece of the pie. The issue is, how do you do that and try to remain at least have as much of a level playing field as you possibly can? But we're getting too way down in the weeds on this, I think.
After the difference of opinion on adding Stanford, Cal, and SMU, can you see a future now where NC State and UNC are in different leagues?
I would not want to see that.
Right. Is there anything you can do about that, though?
Well,
if you're governor when this was happening, is there anything you can actually do about that?
Well, I think that certainly political leadership can come together in a state to put a lot of pressure on university leaders. So if that kind of issue were to present itself, but I think the thing now is just let's do the best we can with the new conference that we have, and teams will enjoy their West Coast swings. And well, when you think about it, hey, the field hockey teams, the soccer teams, the baseball teams, you go and you stay on the West Coast a while, and some of the kids probably have never been out there, and it can be a positive thing for them.
That's a good spin. That's good. Gilio and I are not on record as being fans.
I know what you guys are, and I've heard your positions on this, but I'm
Jim Phillips is not too happy with us.
It is what it is. Yeah. Okay, it is what it is. So you got to go with it.
I mean, you got to be proactive, and that's how you end up being reactive and ending up with play with schools that might not fit.
It's a big move for little financial reward when you get right down to it.
Speaking of being proactive on things, I feel like we've been talking to you about getting the sports wagering stuff off the ground for a while now. My understanding is, just because the new year's coming around and the college football playoff is starting, we can't make a bet yet. I mean, not yet. When can we?
So, well, first they passed this legislation, and then the General Assembly came back and made some adjustments to it, which the Lottery Commission says has caused them to go back and have to redo some things. This rulemaking has to work. You got to make sure that it is working right. The goal is to get it out there before March Madness. No guarantee that that's the case, but I think that is the goal. They're working on getting the rules and getting everybody licensed up and getting started. So looking forward to that. I think it'll be positive for the state, our economy, jobs, and people are already doing it anyway. We might as well have the North Carolina taxpayers get some benefit from this.
I hear what you're saying, but like DraftKings and FanDuel, I have these accounts. I have to drive once a week to Virginia to place my bets legally. It drives me crazy.
Yeah. Well, we're working on it.
Well, we're all in the United States of America. Why can't they just turn the geofence on and let me place my bets? It's already been approved in the state of North Carolina.
Yeah. But look, don't disagree with you as a fan and somebody who would want to place a bet, but you got to make sure that the rules are right and that everybody's complying with the law and that the state's getting its right amount of revenue. And it's pretty complicated to make sure that you follow all of the law that the General Assembly has put in place. And so they're working on it fast as they can. I had them all in the room over there the other day, pushing them, saying we've got to get this done as quickly as we can.
Like a lawyer answer. That's the difference between you and me, among other things.
Well, you just want to make bets. You're sick and tired of driving out to Virginia. Let's be real.
Yeah, but I also
Or hitting me up while I'm in Detroit on a Junior Canes trip and giving me all this information about who I should bet on.
The OG gambling syndicate.
I can see you now with a betting show where people pay to listen to you about what the over/under is going to be, and you're yelling and. I can see that now. There could be a future for you.
I like it. Well, let's get Dundon on the phone on that one. We'll be over at the backyard.
Speaking of
bistro.
Dundon, I'm ready for some MLB in Raleigh. Are you?
You are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was on my agenda of things to talk about, and it does relate to Tom Dundon. I think we got you for 5 more minutes, so let's work backwards and then go forwards.
Okay.
I've made the argument that this year, 2023 was the most impactful season of the Carolina Hurricanes since they won the Stanley Cup on a variety of levels, the Stadium Series game, and pushing through what's going to happen at PNC Arena and that entire development, which apparently has already gotten too expensive and they've taken something off the books. But that's another story.
Well, that's the stadium reno, but it's still going to be spectacular.
And it needs to happen. It needs to happen. But this speaks to Dundon and how he wants to help transform the area. So look, you're an OG. That's why we got you the hoodie. There's a push and pull from what this area was and what people still want it to be versus what somebody from the outside like Dundon wants to push forward and change the area for sports. So how do you feel about what's happened with the Centennial Authority and his bigger plans to maybe want to bring Major League Baseball here?
So I think development in that area has been needed. I think a lot of people have expressed concern about being able to go to the PNC Center and then what do I do when I'm there?
Yeah, there's nothing.
The development around it, I think, will be extremely positive for our economy. It will help NC State in what they're doing. It'll be positive for the state fair and all the things going on out there. So I think that's very positive. And if we can get this major league team to Raleigh, I think there can be a place in that area that it could work there. I know that Tom wants to have it in that area.
He does.
There's places in South Raleigh and others that people have looked at. But I think it's a doable thing. I think that once everything gets squared away in Florida with Tampa and all of that, and they know where they're going, then they're going to expand. And I think that we'll be in the mix. I think that Nashville will make probably a strong bid for this.
What do we need to actually make it happen? Because I've argued it's not argued against it, but just there's a lot of things that need to take place in the city of Raleigh to make a Major League Baseball team work infrastructure-wise.
Well, first you need owners with a lot of money who are willing to put the money down to establish the team and put a significant amount in building a stadium and all of the amenities that you need. I think probably state and local government understanding the economic windfall that could come from a major league team would be willing to help in some way, but you've got to have the big bucks behind it. I think with the development that's happening in that area, that a major league team would fit in nicely because there's already infrastructure improvements in that area. I think the demographics here with the Hurricanes being the pro team, we don't have in the Triangle area the competition of professional football, professional basketball like they have in Charlotte. Charlotte obviously has been mentioned. I don't know if they are at the saturation point for pro sports with Charlotte FC and everything they've got going on down there. They potentially could be in the mix. But I think the Triangle is just the right kind of place to bring Major League Baseball, and that's our whole. That's North Carolina's whole. That I think would be really exciting for us to try and bring here. We might not be able to pull it off, but I think you're going to see a lot of people coming together to try to make it happen.
I'm sure you feel better about Tar Heel basketball, but I would like your thoughts on Tar Heel football, the way that season ended. It was odd seeing them in Raleigh. That was weird. It's almost like no one told them there was a game.
Did they play?
I think there was a game, but they just didn't show up.
We were physically there. We saw it. We saw it happen.
No, I remember that someone told me the Tar Heels they lost on the Wolfpack's home ice. I heard about that happening.
It's the turf. That was the problem.
No, that was a real butt kicking. That was pretty bad. And NC State deserved to win that game. I mean, they just outplayed the Tar Heels on both sides of the ball, special teams, everything else. So, first, please let me say that I'm excited about Tar Heel basketball.
I was going to ask you what you think so far. I think they need some more signature wins.
They do, but they're playing a tough schedule, which is a good thing early, and I think they're learning where their problems are, turnovers, and protecting the offensive glass. And I think that Coach Davis is going a little deeper into his bench and sticking with that plan. And I think that's a good thing for the Tar Heels. As for football, we'll get to see a preview of what next season is going to look like. When you don't have May and Tez Walker and Corey Gaynor and Cedric Gray and all these guys who are moving on, you get to see some of the next generation. So it'll be interesting. Interesting to see how it goes.
We will see you in March. We'll fill out a bracket.
Looking forward to it.
Curious what kind of reverse jinxes you might have in store for this year. So we'll see.
Well, it's always fun to be with you guys, and really grateful for the opportunity. This is my next life, as you know.
Oh, I was joking with your staff that we have to get some.
We have a live Thursday show that we're working on. So
cool.
And
you're going to need somebody?
Well, yeah.
Maybe?
Hey, drop on by. We're downtown. But I'm worried about when you're out of office, you're going to start your sports podcast and you're just going to take our numbers. I'm worried about this.
I could do that.
All right. So, thank you, Governor.
Thanks, guys.
If you're watching on YouTube, that transition, there is the picture of Giglio handing Governor Roy Cooper a Duke T-shirt and an NC State flag ahead of the NCAA tournament, going full Homer Simpson.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Tar Heels weren't there. So.
That's right. Had to root for the other teams.
Yeah. That's what he says, right? Like,
I think that Duke shirt ended up with somebody like a part of the chief of staff or something like that. Speaking of shirts, you can get yours at Home Field Apparel. They got great Carolina stuff. They got great state stuff. An incredible Big Four tournament champ shirt from Wake Forest. Bomber jackets, you name it, they got it. It is close to Christmas. You might be thinking about treating yourself. Maybe you got cash for Christmas. Hey, use it on homefieldapparel.com. Use that promo code OG23 to get your great stuff today. We talk a lot about the unbundling, but bundling is back, baby. And that's what's going on at Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority. You can bundle and save on your services. So make it happen, Joe.
Yeah, you want to save money? Go to bugsbite.com. Ants, termites, mice, moisture, you name it. All these things are, you want that misting in the backyard? Whew. It's all good stuff, man.
Also, good stuff at Breeze Through. They got good stuff in the coffee machine. That's key right now as you are running all over the place. You need some caffeine. They've got it. Breeze Through, along with the gas, of course. Snacks, hydration, beer. You're picking up something on your way to a party, family gathering. You got to get some booze. They got it. Head out to Breeze Through all across the Triangle in North Carolina.
17 locations. I highly recommend the one in Cary.
You're obsessed with that one. All right, we'll talk to Adam to see if we can actually do
live.
We'll do it live. We can do gas station beers while we're hanging out at that Breeze Through. That would actually be a lot of fun.
We're moving on.
It seems as though Florida State is not moving on from the college football playoff snub, and they're not moving on from obsessing over a way to get out of the ACC. Let's actually start with the college football playoff snub because that's the thing that's the most immediate. And Mike Norvell, head coach at Florida State, and this is from David Hale over at ESPN, our friend David Hale, quote, "The most challenging couple of weeks of coaching I've ever had." That's the past 2 weeks for Florida State since the Seminoles were left out of the college football playoff despite their 13-0 record. Norvell said he spoke to the team immediately after the committee's decision on December 3rd to move Florida State from number 4 to number 5 in the final rankings, and followed that up with several text messages to players while he was on the road recruiting. He said many Seminole players are still struggling with the reality that an undefeated season was not enough to sway the committee. And he had a quote, you have to learn how to work through disappointment, hurt, frustration, anger, every bit of it. The question is, what the hell is that going to look like in the Orange Bowl for Florida State?
I I mean, they're playing a team in Georgia that I think their entire team has opted out of this game too. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I mean, it's completely. I would actually protest if I were them. I wouldn't play.
See, I can go about this too,
because a bunch of Florida State players have already opted out. Like they're pro prospects. So
yeah, at some point we're gonna have to have an honest conversation about the current state of the bowl games, especially when we expand to 12 teams.
Oh yeah,
because if you think it's like this now, if you think there's a lack of motivation to play now, just wait for the teams that were on the back end of that 12-team playoff not making it and see what their motivation level is. And I do think we're ultimately going to get opt-outs even in playoff games for teams that, oh, hey, we're in, but nobody really thinks you have a chance. When that happens, people will absolutely lose their minds. I'm calling that right now. But if I'm Mike Norvell and with the team that I have it's twofold. You say, look, that team is just as unmotivated and quote unquote hurt as you because they feel like they belong, just like we feel we belong. But they have one thing that we don't, a 1 in the loss column. We don't have one of those. And you go out there and you beat them, an SEC team, and then at 14-0, we're going to celebrate. We're going to basically treat it like we won the national championship. Let's go old school, like we're the AP national champ or whatever it is. Have a parade. Invite members of that Central Florida team to celebrate with you. You know, Dan Lebitard, the Miami guy that he is, who loves to stick it to the man, would absolutely embrace Florida State and hold a parade for them like he did for Central Florida. The Stugotz is strong and all of that stuff. I don't know if that motivational tactic will work. I don't know if it matters, but I think that part right there, the matters part, is the thing that, once again, the powers that be in sports say one thing and then they give you another. Everything gets determined on the field. This and blah, blah, like all the meritocracy, sports, there's winners and there's losers. Well, all they did was win.
Yeah.
And you still found a way to make them a loser.
Let me ask you this. In your head, is there a difference between North Carolina not making the NCAA tournament and saying, hey, I don't want to play in the NIT. This wasn't our goal this year.
Yeah.
Our roster's in flux. We put an effort in to try to get into the real tournament to play for the championship. It didn't work out. We're not playing in the NIT. Is there a difference between that and saying, in Florida State saying our goal was to make the championship, to play for the championship, and now we don't want to play?
No, I don't see one.
I don't see a difference either.
Yeah. No, if they wanted to completely opt out of it to make a point, I would support that. I would understand it, but I'm looking at it more from
the Orange Bowl would be so mad.
Oh well, man.
The ACC would be so
mad. Well, if I'm Florida State, okay, thank you for bringing that up. The ACC would be mad.
Like when Carolina did it, like Juwan Howard strangely was mad. Like if Florida State did that, which I absolutely think they should do.
Cool.
I would go, we're 13-0. We won all of the games that were scheduled that we were supposed to play.
Yeah.
We are, like you said, we're the New York Times national champions.
We'll make them the OG national champs.
We're the Billingsley computer champions. Whatever you are, we'll find it and say that you are.
Is there a custom patch you can put on that OG hoodie that says, OG national champs?
Just 12-0, 13-0.
13-0. Boom.
Boom. Send it to him. Send it to Norvell. Who was the Drew Weatherford? Was that the quarterback?
Yeah, he's on the board of trustees now, which we'll get to that in a second. So you said the ACC would be mad, and
they would be furious.
If I'm Florida State, I would go back to the ACC and said, "What did you do for us?
Yeah, this is your fault.
This is honestly, is your fault.
Well, it's Georgia's fault. Really?
No.
Because if Georgia beats Alabama, then they're in.
I have been screaming this since December 3rd. That the ACC has a gigantic political messaging problem. And
I can't argue with that.
There's a commissioner in place that does not want to play the game. You want to talk about being pissed. If I'm Florida State and the ACC was mad at me for opting out, I would turn around and say, you're mad about us. Why are you not mad at our television partner who had an entire schedule release for the SEC where we took strays all night? Think about that. You didn't watch this thing, but I saw clips and it was just like every so often they just find ways to stick it to the ACC. And I know where that comes from because I know the behind the scenes nature of the jealousy and dynamics and the political dynamics that take place at ESPN between the ACC, the network, and the SEC. So that stuff comes from a higher spot to be like, stick it to them. Absolutely stick it to them, because what are they going to do? They're not going to fight back. So if I'm the ACC, if I'm Florida State, I go, what are you guys doing? Because you ain't helping us out.
Now, the only thing I would say is if they were going to opt out, they should have done it already.
Yeah.
So that Louisville would have had the opportunity to play in the Orange Bowl, where they would have appreciated the chance to play in the Orange Bowl. But what do I know anymore about who wants to play bowl games and who doesn't? I can't figure it out.
Man. I just, if they're going to play, I hope they win, and then they go undefeated and they just start talking about how we're national champs. I would absolutely love that. I mean, it wouldn't stop the Florida State Board of Trustees from doing it. I mean, they're still talking about leaving the ACC. That's the other story that came out of Florida State, because it is directly tied to what happened with being left out of the college football playoff. Andrea Adelson had a story on ESPN saying that FSU had renewed their in-depth discussions about their long-term future in the ACC. A lot of it has to do with the snub. The situation is expected to come to a head in the near future and be formally discussed soon, sources indicated to ESPN. While there have been renewed discussions, no Board of Trustees meeting has been called. To be clear, Florida State is not leaving the ACC in the near term, but is merely weighing its options. All right. Couple things about this. They're not leaving anytime soon because it gets back to the television contract. And I did find it interesting in going back, listening to the Bubba Cunningham interview that we had yesterday. You had asked him about the additions of Cal, Stanford, and SMU, and the reported nature of why they went and just got the remaining parts they cared about of the Pac-12. Because if teams leave, you need the filler to make sure your contract with ESPN still works. And I thought Bubba's answer was very, very telling.
This was a move made in anticipation of a Florida State or Clemson or a Carolina leaving the league. Mm-hmm. As someone who's involved in these conversations, you're in the room where it happens. Like, do you get the sense that that's imminent?
Well, I think that what we've heard and what we've seen action on is, there's a financial gap between the television contracts between the SEC and the Big Ten and the ACC. So to try to close that gap, we've created this success initiative that allows some of the schools that are going to compete at the highest level, particularly in football, to help close the gap. So I think that was a step toward it. And I think that's very helpful in that scenario. But I think all of us are a bit uneasy because none of us thought 12 months ago we wouldn't have a Pac-12. And so when you see that, then you're like, oh my gosh, if it can happen to them, it can happen to anybody. So I understand the concern about it, but I don't anticipate it. And if you look back the last couple of years, all of those transitions have been tied to the expiration of their media rights. And so to me, those are the tipping point dates that we need to keep in mind, that's when things would change, probably not until those times.
So that was Bubba Cunningham on with us, episode 116 of this podcast. You can catch the full interview on YouTube or just go back and listen to that podcast. A lot of good stuff from Bubba Cunningham. But that last part there, Joe, about the television contracts, he's absolutely right.
Yeah, he's right. Oklahoma, Texas, when you think about it, their deal was coming up. And remember, they were going to leave early. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden it was like, maybe not. That kind of money later out. At USC, UCLA, the Pac-12 deal was up. Hence their move.
Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a while. Florida State's going to have to sit their ass down and wait a while. I keep saying 2030 at the earliest. 2030 for Florida State leaving.
Gives you another 5-year win. I mean, even 5 years is a lot to swallow.
It is. And that's a lot of SMU winning the league. Right?
Could happen next year.
Every time we talk about college football, it's brought to you by Wings Over. Check them out in downtown Raleigh, in Chapel Hill, and in Greenville. I saw your Axios Q&A.
Yeah.
And they asked you about your favorites food spots. And you did mention Wings Over.
Of course.
This happens to be three of our sponsors.
I know. I was like,
favorite. Well, but you're not kidding. No, you're absolutely not kidding.
You know where I eat. No, Ryan, it's, again, sometimes I think about, man, let's talk about the parking. Let's talk about how easy it is to order. Let's talk about the different flavors. The truth of the matter is I love chicken wings. And the truth of the matter is they have the best wings. Like good, meaty wings. Not like, they're not burnt.
They're not burnt, yeah.
They're not like flimsy.
Nope. They are substantial. They're thick boys.
Yeah.
Thick boys. So head on over to Wings Over.
I don't know what other requirement you would want.
And they got flavors.
The rest of it is just like a bonus, right?
You talking about waffle fries and the tots?
Yeah, no, I'm saying like the parking, the use of the website, which is so easy, the different flavors, the tots, the fries, those are all bonuses. Like, but the truth of the matter is, if you really like wings,
head on over to Wings Over.
This is the answer.
And going beyond that, you can go to Butcher's Market, new location at Lake Boone Shopping Plaza in Raleigh, locations across the triangle, location in Wilmington as well. And as we get closer to Christmas, New Year's, hey, look, like I'm staying in for New Year's. I'm not doing anything crazy. You know what I might do? Weather permitting, get some goodies from Butcher's Market, grill out, have stuff to snack on, maybe stay up until midnight. Maybe.
I really want to go do something at 7:00.
All right. I'll see you there.
Celebrate.
You want to go downtown?
The kids' New Year's at 7.
We'll do kids' New Year's at 7:00 then. And then I'll go home and I'll grill out. That's the
ready.
move.
Shady Pines. I'm ready.
Big thanks to Graffiti as well. You might have some time off. You're entertaining family from out of town. Really easy suggestion. They got games on TV, all the bowl games, and they got axe throwing. Good way to bond with axe throwing. Sounds silly, but axe throwing is a lot of fun, man. So go check that out. Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline is the AD at UNC Pembroke. His name is Dick Christy. He's got some ties to the Triangle. Spent some time at NC State. We can talk about those differences and what Pembroke is looking forward to the rest of this year and next year. Dick, how are you?
Joe, great to see you guys again. I appreciate the time.
So we're kind of in the midst of this conversation about the sports wagering bill going through. And there's some conversation as to when it'll actually happen. We've been focused on what it means for pro sports. We've had Tom Dundon, owner of the Carolina Hurricanes, on to talk about that. I'm sure David Tepper with the Carolina Panthers wants this. The big schools can see some benefit from it. But there were changes in the law that helped benefit smaller schools, so the UNC system schools like yours. So what do you stand to benefit from the wagering bill going through?
Yeah, I think you started at the right place, North Carolina wise. You know, we didn't have a big choice if we were going to solidify the long-term future for the Hurricanes and the Panthers. I mean, you just couldn't have a scenario where they had a better option elsewhere, particularly with what that means to the state. So when we work backwards from there, I was really proud and excited that our legislature saw the need and what was going on at the smaller UNC system schools, and that the UNC Board of Governors, went on this really a 1.5-year journey of looking at the economic impact of what UNC system schools mean to the state and how they aligned those revenues. So similar to the lottery where student scholarships are benefited, they aligned it to the 10 smallest athletic departments to glean the residual revenue from sports betting. So to say that it's at the right time, we really we're kind of at a precipice financially. When you hit COVID and so many kids changed the way they were taking their education and more kids moved into online programs, you don't pay an athletic fee in the UNC system if you're not an on-campus student. So historically, if you're that live on campus, live near campus, walk to class, go to the dining hall type kid, you're the one that pays an athletic fee for obvious reasons. So as that business model has begun to change, it's really left a huge void in the smaller schools' revenue stream. When I was at State, we were really intentional about trying to keep that student fee down as far as possible because we had access to so many other revenues. I mean, our box office was making $20 million a year. That's a lot different when you get down to our level. So the student fee, nationally, or the institution support is the lion's share of what makes the business model for a smaller athletic department. So now that we can finally tap into another revenue stream, initially it's going to backfill what we've lost from COVID and what we've lost from students moving online. But hopefully, if the projections that they put out there are close to accurate, this is really going to let us catch up on some services that we really kind of put off given the financial crisis. So really, really thankful to the legislature and the Board of Governors.
And obviously at Pembroke, we're talking about different things than we would at the ACC level. So in what ways does some of these, funds kind of help you guys?
Yeah, so the bill stops at everybody below FBS. So you've got Central, A&T, with football to Division I level, Western with football at Division I level. Then you got the 3 AAA schools in Greensboro, Wilmington, and Asheville. And then you have the 4 Division IIs, Fayetteville State, Elizabeth City, Winston, and us. So for those who are kind of that mid-major D1 level, I don't know if you guys paid attention to the transformation committee from the NCAA this August, but the changes that they just implemented for D1, mandatory mental health, mandatory extra 2 years of insurance. There's a lot of infrastructure there that for schools like that, this money's gone already. For us, it's kind of backfilling a deficit in revenues, and then the goal is trying to catch up on some of those student services, standards of care, operating budgets. I mean, you guys have seen what's happened in travel and inflation in the last couple of years, and we've actually been going backwards in operating budgets. So we've got to try and catch that up, and those will be the first priorities.
What kind of education programs do you need to put in place, Dick, for your athletes? They won't be able to bet on themselves, but I know we've seen some issues in Iowa and other schools where we've seen athletes get in trouble and maybe they don't know the rules. We've seen this actually at the NFL level where maybe they don't know the rules. So I would imagine a big part of this and receiving this money from the state is having an education piece of it for you guys.
Yeah. So fortunately, we've got a great compliance officer. We've always had an education piece about how this needs to be completely off limits for staff, coaches, and student athletes. That part's not going to change. And I think most departments do have something in place, something that's pretty robust to make sure you're getting out in front of that at the beginning of the year. Because even if it's not going on officially in the state, there have been point spread lines on Division II games for like 10 years now. So
I did not know that, actually.
Depending on how big.
Now I wish you didn't know about it. Now I wish you didn't know.
The light bulb.
Depending on how big of a degenerate gambler you are, depends on whether or not you found those outlets. But
Look, in the pandemic, Joe found some things. He found, what was it, Tippy Tapa? Some
Tippy
foreign
Tapa,
basketball?
Nicaraguan basketball.
Yeah, man. That's where we were at. That's how bad we were off, man.
So I was at a meeting in Indianapolis a couple of weeks ago, and we actually got to meet with the NCAA enforcement staff, and they have a whole division on tampering. And it was fascinating hearing from them talk about the IP address tracking, how they follow the digital funds. So, even if you're trying to bet through somebody else, that they can track it back. And one of the big things they said was in the states where it was legalized, they have a kind of an arm in arm partnership with the gaming commissions. So in many ways, it's actually going to make it more available to regulate this and keep an eye on it, because they will be able to work together. It was fascinating to listen to like the geofencing and everything that goes in, where even if you're Venmoing somebody and trying to get a bet for somebody else to place for you, they're going to find it. It's interesting.
Did you find that to be the most difficult part of this conversation with getting this legalized or being on board with it? The lack of education. You just illustrated how technology has allowed for that arm-in-arm partnership to cut down on Dixie Classic point shaving scandal, which was evoked in the North Carolina General Assembly when people wanted this to go away. They didn't want to approve these measures. But it's like, y'all, it's different. Like, that wouldn't have happened now with all the technology that's there. So what kind of battles did you have in terms of educating your own constituents when it came to this stuff?
The fact that we had something in place, we're going to cover gambling every year. But in light of that conversation I got to have, I'm thinking about getting those folks on a Zoom with our student athletes, because some of that was really eye-opening for me. And I think it just helps to drive home that this is not a good idea for you to dabble in. Mm-hmm. But we've been fortunate; we haven't had issues down that road. And I think that now that it will actually be above board, you have a better chance to educate and regulate and make sure that it does not work into the fray. You look at like the Netflix documentary on the Arizona State point shaving scandal, right? Like, this has been going on a long time, and most departments, I think, as a best practice, are hitting this early and often to make sure that people realize this is something that has to be completely off limits.
Speaking of tampering, we hear a lot about that at the college football level. We'll hear about that at the college basketball level. Coaches is kind of saying, I got the transfer portal, I got guys who want my guys and everything else. But we don't think about the impact on you, or the impact on, say, NC Central. We've talked to Lavelle Moten about this, how the transfer portal and the rules affect them. How has this affected UNC Pembroke with your athletics?
it's again an education piece with the student athletes. If you looked at the data that came out last year of the whatever it was, 13,000, I think 14,000 kids that went in the transfer portal, only 40% of those kids ended up on scholarship somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So one of the big talking points that we had at our Welcome Back Student Athlete event is, guys, we're going to do everything we can to provide you a great experience, but realize every place has its warts, and you need to make sure that you understand what it means the second you enter that transfer portal. You're no longer secured here. To be fair to the rest of your teammates, a coach has to then begin to recruit for that role. If you're saying, I no longer want to be a part of the team. And we've been fortunate. I don't think that we've had a disproportionate issue of kids entering the transfer portal without that being a well thought through decision. We've recently kind of been the beneficiaries of the transfer portal because we did just have a transition in football. And the coach that we hired was an in-state coach. He was well thought of by his players, and because of the immediate eligibility, we probably had 20 kids from his previous roster who actually matriculated to UNCP to continue playing for him. So the nice thing at the Division II level is a big focus for us is the student experience. Like to me, the relationship they've got with their coach is one of the most significant things that we can provide. So if we're providing a good experience and we're doing it in a positive way, we hopefully can mitigate as much of the transfer portal issues as possible. Now, NIL adds a whole nother wrinkle to that. Mm-hmm. And, that's going to be a continuing changing landscape. But again, it's trying to get in front of students and make sure they realize the grass isn't always greener. And, what you're being told through back channels about what is waiting for you on the other side may not always be accurate. So just protect yourself.
As someone who runs a Division II football program, are you excited to see Tyson Bajant with the Bears have the success that he's having?
We've got a couple of kids that I think are gonna get some looks. We got a young man who's with the Bengals right now on their practice squad. So it's neat to see, when those guys leave here and all of a sudden they got on a Packers helmet or something, and they're in camps in the summer. A lot of people don't necessarily think of that from our level, but there's some really good football. I had the good fortune of serving on the selection committee a couple of years ago for D2 football, and when you get to those final 8 teams, I mean, they do not look a lot different physically than what you're going to see at Western Carolina or different FCS programs. There are some dudes on those teams, so it was a lot of fun to be a part of that. And I think you'll see, kids at that level can get a pretty good tape together for scouts to see.
You enjoying? I'm sure there's a hustle involved there, Dick, at the Division II level. This is not. As Jim Boeheim was trying to.
I think like a personal hustle or something. I'm like, no, I don't know. There's no side.
No, like a hustle, like a Pete Rose hustle, like you have to work some corners. You got to have some Carolina Hurricanes grit to make that thing work at the D2 level. Not saying you were spoiled at NC State, because obviously you had to make some things work there as well.
There's levels to this.
But it's a challenge, man. I'm sure it's been rewarding for you running the department.
It's been 11 years. It's crazy. I was at State for 13. I didn't come here with a plan to leave, but it's still just amazing how quickly it's gone by. But the neat thing here is everything that we do, it's got an impact on students, right? I was getting to the point at NC State on the marketing and the sales side that so much of the focus was on the fan experience and, the new fan engagement softwares and your Midnight Madness event, trying to get featured on ESPN. I mean, you did so much that you were getting more and more removed from really the reasons that you got in the business in the first place. So I was a D2 student athlete. This being a system school, I had a lot of UNC system experience. So it just ended up being a great fit for me. So you got the same hustle that you have at NC State. It's just you're touching more things, right? Like we have to be a jack of all trades, and we have staff that are coming in with less experience, and they're getting to touch things more directly and get a first opportunity at administration. So, our team's young, but they're super creative, and it's a lot of fun to work with that kind of energy. Keeps you young. Gray hairs don't prove it, but keeps you a little bit younger.
Dick Christy, AD, UNC Pembroke. We appreciate the time. We appreciate the insight, and hopefully more of that money will start coming in for everybody, thanks to sports wagering. We'll talk to you later.
No doubt. Thanks a lot, guys.
Man, I keep hearing a theme on today's show, Joe. We need the gambling to happen now.
Yeah.
We need it now.
Yeah.
Think of the children. Think of the economy. Think of
us.
Joe's bank account.
Something. Think of something besides yourself.
Speaking of which,
think of UNC Pembroke Athletics.
Exactly. That's the important part. Let's get out of here on some Hey Joe questions. Check out Anthony, Oakwood Pizza Box. And you can order online at oakwoodpizzabox.com. It is a Wednesday. They are open Wednesday through Sunday. So go check them out. In lieu of a traditional Hey Joe, I want to give a special shout out to everybody in my mentions, both on Twitter, both on Threads, YouTube comments about how I was right. I'm not going to tell you what I was right about, but those who know, because yesterday somebody gave an interview and pretty much just laid it all out.
Oh boy.
Exactly as I said he was going to do it. And I want to acknowledge the people who are like, man, Ovias, you had that 100% right from the jump. I just think it's interesting. I'm just going to leave this one thing. So I'm not going to name him. I'm not going to explain.
Not count? If you don't say his name,
because you don't know what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
So the point is, those who know. But I want to just say this. I find it amusing that when I want to go back and tell you how I was right about something, I can't have that. Bring it up all the time. Just move on already.
No,
but
this is not me.
No.
You are confused, sir.
I'm just saying.
You are confused. When we get a message from someone who participates in our program and says, Giulio, shut up already about being right, then I will shut up already about being right. And it causes our star rating to go down. There's the key difference, sir.
Here's what I need to do.
Also, congratulations. You're right about Aaron Rodgers being a fraud.
Anyway, it's going to wrap it up for today's show. We will see you live from Raleigh Times Thursday, 2:00. We've got an OG mixtape holiday edition.
Yeah, we got tumblers.
You can do it in person.
Mm-hmm.
We can do this in person. We're going to be giving out the StreamYard code. You can pop on too, but stick around on Thursday, 2:00. We have prizes for the OG mixtape. We'll see you then.